Hello, I'm Julie Kunstler, Principal Analyst for Ovum, covering broadband access technologies. I have the pleasure of interviewing Stefaan Vanhastel today, the CTO of Fixed Networks for Nokia, here at Broadband World Forum. So my first question to you is, what is the role of fixed networks, and specifically wireline, in the 5G world?
I would say fixed network is relevant now more than ever. There's really three areas where 5G and a fixed access network can complement each other. The first one is you can obviously use 5G to deliver a fixed wireless access service next to fiber or DSL or cable. Of course, you're going to have to make the trade-offs, which technology is the best solution in any given situation. The second way that fiber and 5G, or that fixed access and 5G complement each other, is mobile transport. When you're deploying 5G, at some point you're going to be looking at massive numbers of small cells in every street and every building. You need to connect those small cells. Using a fiber network that's already in place, let's say, just to be specific, if fiber to the home network, means that you don't have to build a new network. That means that the cost and the speed at which you can deploy 5G is actually going to be reduced significantly. The third way that fixed access and 5G can be complementary is that even in a 5G world, consumers are going to expect a 5G service wherever they are, whether they're on the go, connected to a 5G network, or whether they're at home. When they're at home, it makes perfect sense to connect these users over Wi-Fi and a fixed access network, freeing up 5G spectrum for mobile applications and for mobile use cases. So the combination of 5G and fixed access to the home really allow you to deliver a 5G experience to everyone, everywhere.
So describe a little bit how you help service providers figure out which technology to deploy where and why.
So I think there's two things that are important. First of all, you need to make the necessary, you basically need to figure out what works best in which circumstances. You need to look at, for example, if you're looking at the question fiber or 5G, how easy will it be to deploy fiber? Do I have existing ducts? If I don't have ducts, am I allowed to do aerial fiber? If I have to bury fiber, how easy is it going to be? Is it a rocky ground? Is it a sandy ground? If it's too difficult if the business case for fiber doesn't work, do I have spectrum? Do I have line of sight? If I want to do 5G, do I have any legacy infrastructure, copper or cable that I can upgrade? So it boils down to very pragmatic and very logistical questions almost. And the thing that's really important is that you have this full toolkit of options available, so that you can just, city by city, street by street, sometimes building by building, you can just analyze the circumstances, and you can figure out which tool is going to be best for the job. And most of the deployments we're doing today, most of our customers are already combining multiple technologies. In the end, there's no silver bullet. There's no one magical solution that's simply the best solution in every case. No, it's case by case, and you choose the right tool for the job.
So let me ask you a question about the future. What do you tell your service provider customers to think about when planning for future networks? What are some of the key issues from a customer perspective, from an end customer perspective, that they should be thinking about that then impact which technologies to choose, how to think about the different pros and cons of the different technologies?
So first of all, the end user won't care how they are connected, right? So the only thing they will see is either they have a number of bars on 5G, or they are at home and they have Wi-Fi. So that becomes the broadband service. So one thing to keep in mind is, how do you make that as transparent as possible? How do you make sure that people really they don't care and they shouldn't care, right? So make sure you keep that in place. Whatever you do, simplify the user experience. The second thing is, as I said, it's key to combine different technologies. There's no single answer that's best in every case. That also means that you're going to be combining different technologies, different deployment models. So you need some way to keep that simple for yourself, for your own operational teams, which means at some point you're going to be looking at SDAN, virtualization, automation, complete abstraction of the network layer. Basically, you need to get to a point where the technology no longer matters. The end user don't matter. Your operational teams shouldn't matter either. They selected a specific tool to connect a certain consumer. On top of that, SDAN will build an abstraction layer that hides the complexity of the network. And it simply, as an operator, you simply decide, okay, my basic broadband service is going to be a 300 meg service, and the network will automatically configure whether it's a 5G link, whether it's it's a PON port, whether it's a DSL port. It will provision and configure the network to do exactly what you want to fulfill the intent that you have for that network. So, yes, life is going to get more complicated, but there are solutions coming that will hide the complexity and that will simplify the network again.
And give the user what they want.
And give the user what they want,
right.
Which is in the end what it's all about. Yes.
What are your expectations from Broadband World Forum? What do you expect to learn and give back to the ecosystem here?
So one thing I really like about this event is that you always run into the smartest people in the industry here. So you always learn a lot, and for me that's the only thing that matters.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Julie.